Welcome back to JCE Connect. So let's continue with our revision on our course on Internet of Things technologies. So in this lecture we'll start with our module 2 and we'll cover sensors, actuators and smart objects and sensor networks. So let's start with sensors. So a sensor does exactly as its name indicates, that it senses. Okay. So more specifically, a sensor measures some physical quantity and convert that measurement reading into a digital representation. Okay. So it is going to measure some physical quantity and it is going to convert that into a digital representation. That digital representation is typically passed to another device for transformation into useful data that can be consumed by intelligent devices or humans. So basically simple, it is going to measure some physical quantity and it is going to represent that into a digital representation, and then it can transmit it to some particular device, or it will display in some intelligence it will provide, then human can easily understand that what it has measured. Okay, simple, you can say that like a temperature sensor, it is measuring the physical quantity which is a temperature and giving us a reading in like degree centigrades or something. Okay, so sensors are not limited to human like sensory data. They can measure anything worth measuring. Okay, it's not just like limited. There are so many sensors available for sensing many different things. Okay, sensors can be readily embedded in any physical objects that are easily connected to the internet by wired or wireless networks. So it can be easily embedded into any particular device which are connected with the internet or through the wired or wireless medium. Okay. So there are a number of ways to group and cluster sensors into different categories. So what are the different categories? Let's look into it. So the first one is active and or passive. Okay. So based on whether they produce an energy output and typically required an external power supply, then we are calling them as active. And whether they simply receive energy and typically require no external power supply, then we are calling them as passive sensors. Okay, then invasive or non-invasive. So whether a sensor is a part of the environment it is measuring, then it is invasive. Okay, if it is not, then it is non-invasive. Then contact or non-contact, right? So whether the sensor is physical, so the sensor required physical contact with that they are measuring, then it is contact. Okay, or otherwise it is non-contact. Okay, the next one is absolute and relative. So whether they measure on an absolute scale, then it is absolute, or based on a difference with a fixed or variable reference value, then it is relative, relating with something, right? Some value or a point. Then area of application. Again, so whether the sensors can be categorized based on the specific industry or vertical where it is going to be used. Okay, that is why we are categorizing in area of application. How then the one is how sensors measures. So on the physical mechanism used to measure sensory input. So that mechanism, based on that how the sensors are measuring will be categorized. So for the example, we can say that thermoelectric or thermochemical sensors, optic sensors, electric sensors. Okay, so based on the physical mechanism they are using. Then the last one is what sensor measures. So obviously on their application or what physical variable they are measuring, based on that also we can categorize the sensors like what they are measuring. Okay. So here let's talk about the sensor types. So this classification based on what physical phenomenon a sensor is measuring. Okay. So based on what physical phenomenon the sensor is measuring, we are having different sensor types. Okay, so the first one is position. So a position sensor measures the position of an object. Okay, the position measure can be either in the absolute term, absolute position sensor, or in a relative term. So just now we have seen what is absolute and relative. Okay, so displacement sensor. So position sensor can be linear, angular, or multi-axial. So we are finding the position of any object. So that can be linear or angular position or a multi-axis. Okay. So what kind of examples we have for the position sensors are potentiometer, inclinometer, or proximity sensor. Okay, proximity sensor. Then we have occupancy and motion. So occupancy sensor that detect the presence of people and animal in a surveillance area, while motion sensor detect movement of people and objects. Okay, so occupancy like presence of them, or motion will movement of them, right? The difference between the two is that occupancy sensor generate a signal even when a person is stationary, like they are present there, where motion sensor do not, right? Because if it is stationary, standing there, no motion, then it will not detect, right? So the example is electric eye or radar. Okay. Then we have a velocity and acceleration. So velocity is nothing but speed of motion, right? So sensor may be linear or angular, indicating how fast an object is moving along a straight line or how fast it is rotating. So that will find out the velocity, right? An acceleration sensor measures changes in velocity. Okay. So accelerometer and gyroscope are the example for velocity and acceleration sensors. Then force. So if we want to measure force sensor detect whether a physical force is a physical force is applied, and whether the magnitude of a force is beyond a threshold. Okay. So force gauge. Then we have tactical sensors and all, like they are the force sensors. Then we have pressure. So pressure sensors are related to a force sensor. Okay, like applying a force or applying a pressure. So measuring a force applied by liquid or gases, pressure is measured in terms of force per unit area. Okay, so barometer, Bourdon gauge, piezometer are the example for pressure sensor. Flow. So if you are measuring the flow sensor detect the rate of fluid flow. Okay, they measure the volume, mass flow, or a rate, flow velocity of a fluid that has passed through a system in a given period of time. So it is measuring that flow. So anemometer, mass flow meter, water meter are like measuring the flow. Then we have acoustic sensor measures sound level and convert that information into a digital or analog data. So microphone, uh, geophone, hydrophone are the example for acoustic sensors. Then humidity. Obviously, the humidity sensor detect the humidity amount of water vapor present in the air. Okay, so humidity levels can be measured in various ways. So absolute humidity, relative humidity, mass ratio, and so on. So for measuring the humidity, we have different sensors like hygrometer, humister, soil moisture sensor. So they will measure humidity. Then we have light sensor detect the pressure of light, presence of light. Okay, so whether it is visible or invisible. So infrared sensor, photo detector, flame detector, so that are for the light, measurement of light. Then radiations. So radiation sensor detect radiations in the environment. Radiations can be sensed by scintillating or ionization detection. So for this we have like different sensor. Ginger-Muller counter, okay, scintillator. So that are some example for radiation sensors. Then we have temperature sensor. So everyone know this temperature sensor measures the amount of heat or cold that is present in a system. They can be broadly of two types, like contact and non-contact, right? So recently we are seeing, we know that contact sensors is like thermometer we have to put or touch into the body and then it will measure. But now we have different like non-contact based like infrared sensor which are measuring the temperature nowadays, right? So that are non-contact based. So we are having this thermometer, calorimeter, temperature gauge for the measurement of temperature. Then we have chemical sensors. So chemical sensor measure the concentration of chemicals in a system. Okay, when subjected to a mix of chemicals, chemical sensors are typically selective for target type of chemicals. For example, a CO2 sensor sends only carbon dioxide. Okay, so we have sensor chemical sensors. Then we have biosensors. Biosensors detect various biological elements such as organisms, tissues, cells, enzymes, antibodies, and nucleic acid. Okay, so blood glucose biosensor, pulse oximetry sensors are some of the biosensors. Okay, so these are we have different type of sensors. Okay, so these are different type of sensors. So now you can have a most familiar example for what are the different kind of sensors. Like we are already using so many of them in our day-to-day life, right? So just consider our smartphone. So what all sensors it is having? So proximity sensor it is having, so that will detect the presence of nearby objects. Okay, then magnetometer, accelerometer detect the orientation of your phone, how you are holding your phone, orientation of the phone will be detected by accelerometer. Then humidity sensor, gyroscope, so gyroscope adds the additional dimension to your accelerometer. So okay, depth and all, so that are the sensors. Then we have microphone which is converting our voice signal. Okay, the moisture sensor. Then we have fingerprint sensor which is detecting our fingerprint for unlock lock like your phone, right? So these are nothing but different sensors what we are already using. Pressure sensor, thermometer, touchscreen is again a sensor which is detecting our touch. Okay, so then we have different light sensors. Okay, GPS we are having in our phone, cameras. So all these are different sensors we are already using. Okay, so it is sensing the things and collecting the data, and based on that it is taking some action. Yes or no? Like if you say fingerprint sensor, so it is collecting your fingerprint, and if the fingerprint is correct, then it is unlocking your system, right? So that are the different sensors. Then let's discuss about the actuators. So what are actuators? So actuators are natural complement to sensors. So this figure demonstrate the summary and complementary nature of these two type of devices, sensors and actuators. So how sensors and actuator interact with the physical world actually. So if we have a real world, a physical environment, sensor will sense and measure something that will get represented into a digital format or a electrical signal. Okay, and that information is taken by that information will get processed, and based on that the actuators will act and do some useful work on the real world. Okay, so like simple example you can take finding the water level. Okay, so like if water level that is in a real world physical environment you are having, it is whether the tank is full or not. So a sensor will detect whether the water is level is full in a tank or not. That will sense and give the information. Okay, so this information some many times processed in by the microcontroller or any other CPUs or anything. So they will decide, so based on that information it will give the instruction to the motors to stop running, right? So the motor will stop, and when the water is full the motor will stop, like that. Okay, so we can correlate that with a human. Okay, so simply like we have the different senses. Okay, we can see, hear. Okay, touch sensor, taste sensors. Okay, so all this are collecting some data, and based on that our brain is going to decide what action has to be taken. Okay, and based on that our actuators are nothing but hands, legs are operating according to that. Okay, so it same will happen with the sensors and actuators. Sensor will sense, and the CPU, that is what I said, like a microcontroller or anything microprocessor central processing unit is gonna process that data and gonna tell, like our brain, it will gonna tell the actuators. So here the actuators, and they will act upon it. Okay. So much like sensors, actuators also vary greatly in functions, size, design, and so on. Some common ways that we can classify the actuators are based on type of motion. Okay, so actuators can be classified based on the type of motion they produce, like for example linear motion, rotation. Okay, so obviously like your motor will rotation, yes or no, so that is an actuator. Then power, so actuator can be classified based on their power output, like high power, low power, or micro power output they are giving. Okay, then binary or continuous, so actuators can be classified based on the number of stable state output. So binary means 0 or 1, continuous, the stable state output. Then area of application, again same, actuators can be classified based on the specific industry or vertical where they are used. Okay, then type of energy, actuators can be classified based on their energy type. So let's see based on energy type how we can divide the actuators. Okay, so it can be a mechanical actuators. Okay, so lever, screw jack, hand crank. Electrical actuators, thyristor, bipolar transistor, diode are electrical actuators. So based on the energy type. Electromechanical actuators, okay, electromagnetic actuators like electromagnet, linear, solenoid, hydraulic or pneumatic actuators, smart material actuators, or micro and nano actuators. So these are the different actuator classification can be done based on the energy type. So sensors provide the information, actuators provide the action, right? Sensors provide the information and actuator provides the action. The most interesting use case of IoT are those where sensors and actuators work together in an intelligent, strategic, and complementary fashion. So most interesting use of the use case of IoT where the sensors and actuators are working together. So that is what, like for example, we can say that smart sensors used to evaluate soil quality, okay, by measuring the variety of soil, temperature, and plant characteristics. This can be connected with a electrically or pneumatically controlled valves actuators that control water, pesticide, fertilizers. So basically smart farming, right? So measuring something, and based on that we are just putting some water or pesticides and all. So intelligently triggering a high precise actuator based on well defined sensor reading of temperature, pH, or soil or air humidity, nutrient levels, and so on, to deliver a highly optimized and custom environment specific solution is truly a smart farming. So based on automatically the things will happen based on the readings, whatever is required, that actuators will act upon and that will be provided. Okay, so that is what we can say that the most interesting use case where both sensors and actuators work together. Then let's discuss about smart objects. Okay, so smart objects are quite simply the building blocks of IoT. They are what transform everyday objects into a network of intelligent objects that are able to learn from and interact interact with their environment in a meaningful way. So basically, the smart objects are nothing but they can be a term like this. Smart object is often used interchangeably with the terms such as smart sensors, smart devices, IoT devices, intelligent devices, things, smart things, intelligent node, intelligent things, and intelligent products. So basically, the smart object will transform the everyday object into a network of intelligent objects. Okay, and they are able to learn from something or interact with their environment. Okay, and according to that they will do some meaningful uh, actions or meaningful tasks. So that's why we are saying smart. Okay, like simply you can take an example, watch, right? Nowadays you are calling them a smart watch because they are the previously the watch was just giving you the time and all. Now the smart watch will have many features and it is connected, so it will track the things where how much you have walked and what is the your health, so all that they are learning. Okay, right? So they are making it intelligent, connected with the network. That's why we are calling them as smart object. So basically, a smart object is a device that has a minimum the following four defining characteristics. Okay, so if a particular device is having this four particular characteristics, then we are calling them as a smart object. Okay, so the what are those four uh, things are: processing unit, that is CPU, sensors or actuators, communication device, and power source. So obviously the CPU is nothing but a tiny low cost computer will be there. Okay, it's embedded in an object to make them smart. So if the CPU is there, that object will be able to decide the things on its own. So that's why we are saying like a smart. So it will become smart, can be organized into networks. Then we have sensors that can measure the physical data like temperature, vibrations, pollution, anything. Actuators capable of performing the task, change the traffic light, rotate the mirror, anything. Okay, that is the another thing. Then communication devices. So obviously communication devices are receive the instructions, send or wrote the data. Okay, so they are receiving some information through that communication device, or they are sending the information from the device to another. Okay, or self organizing into the network. They are keeping that particular object connected into the network. So that is very important, a communication device. Okay, like a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth. Okay? That is it. Then we have power source. So obviously if that particular device is a wireless object, is a wireless, then obviously to work these sensors, actuators and communication devices, power is required. Yes or no? So obviously it should have a battery in it. So what are the trends in the smart objects today? So we are having so many smart objects are getting created nowadays. So what are the trends nowadays in the smart object? So size is getting decreasing. Size is decreasing. So this will reduce the size, makes the smart objects easier to embed in everyday objects. Okay, if the size is reduced, that can be easily embedded into our everyday devices, like in a watch. Now previously there was no Bluetooth in a watch, but now we are having a Bluetooth in a watch, right? So we are having the sensors in a watch which are sensing that how much we have walked and all. So the smaller and smaller they are getting, so it is easy to embed them into the everyday life devices. Power consumption is decreasing. Okay, so the different hardware components of a smart object continually consume less power. Okay, this is especially true for sensors and many of which are completely passive. Right, we have discussed what is active and passive. So many doesn't require even a power, so power consumption is reducing. So because of that, battery life is getting increased. Okay, communication capabilities are improving. So we know that, like no big surprise, like rather than Bluetooth, many new communication technologies are coming up, so which are more powerful. Okay, then communication is being increasingly standardized. So there is a strong push in the industry to develop open standard for IoT communication protocol. So everyone is having the open standard and everyone is following the same rule for designing their objects and all. So the connectivity will be very good and communication will be very good because everyone is following the same rule. It is like everyone is knowing the same language so that all can talk with each other, right? So that way the communication is being increasingly standardized. Then we have sensor networks. So a sensor or actuator network, that is SANET. As the name suggests, it is a network of sensors that sense and measure their environment and or actuators that act on their environment. Okay, the sensors and or actuators in a SANET are capable of communicating and cooperating in a productive manner. So together they are working. Okay, so SANETs offers highly coordinated sensing and actuation capabilities. So basically SANETs offers highly coordinated sensing and actuating capabilities. Smart home are a typical SANET that display this coordination between the distributed sensors and actuators. Okay. The following are some of the advantages and disadvantages that a wireless based solution offer. So it can be wired and wireless, right? Sensors, actuators, but typically we are moving to a wireless one. So what are the advantages? Greater deployment flexibility. Okay, so especially in extreme environment or hard to reach places, so anywhere we can deploy this particular, because they are wireless. That is the advantage, that we can put them any places. Simpler scaling to a large number of nodes, so it is easier to get connected. Scaling is easy. Lower implementation cost. Okay, nowadays, so if you are putting many devices together, the cost of implementation for the SANETs is less. Easier long term maintenance. Okay, so even the maintenance doesn't cost too much. Effortless introduction of new sensors or actuators node. So even we can come up with new sensors and actuators, and even they can be easily get added to this particular network. Better equipped to handle dynamic rapid topology changes. So even if the topology, the network topology is changing, they're capable to handle that and get adjusted with. So now what are the disadvantages of this thing? Potentially less secure. Okay, as we know that it is IoT, so it is connected to the internet, so anyone can hack that particular device and can get the data what they have collected, the sensors have collected. Typically lower transmission speed, so the data cannot be transmitted very fast. So that is the another disadvantage. Or greater level of inputs, greater level of impact influence by environment. So where we are placing that our smart object or our device. Okay, so it may get affected because of the environment. So because nowadays we know that the environmental changes are happening so much, so taking consideration of that, we need to design our objects. So again, this is a disadvantage, that it will get affected by the environment. Okay, so let's we're done with all today's topics. So what can the questions can be asked on this topic? So the first one is, list and explain the number of ways to group and cluster the sensors into different categories. Okay, so don't get confused that the group, in which group we are clustering the sensors are different, and the type of sensors are different. Okay, so the next question is type and explain. So the type are different and this is different. Okay, then how sensors and actuator interact with the physical world. So we have seen that particular block diagram, how they interact. It will sense, give that information, and based on that information it will actuate that, right? Then explain the characteristics of smart objects. Okay, so we have discussed the characteristics about the smart objects also. So it should have that 4 characteristics, right? Then only we are saying it is a smart object. Then what is SANET? Explain some advantages and disadvantages of wireless based solution offers. Okay, so these are some questions.